Incredible revelation. Pregnant woman's heartwarming feint exposes hidden truths in court. Jessica sat in the courtroom, her heart racing with anxiety. Pregnant with her second child, she could feel the weight of her fight for custody bearing down on her. Tom, her estranged husband, towered across the table, a sneer on his face. His family's money loomed over her like a storm cloud, threatening to drown out her voice. With each accusation against her, waves of indignation washed over Jessica, threatening to drag her under. She had built her life from the ground up, working long hours as a waitress in a cozy suburban diner, and it felt like a cruel joke that Tom, with all his privilege, was trying to take Jamie away from her. The whispers of the courtroom buzzed around her as the judge banged the gavel. Each thud echoed in Jessica's chest, a reminder of her struggle. She had always been the one to lend a hand, to volunteer her time, to comfort other single parents at the local playground. But today, that kindness felt like a fraying thread in the fabric of the law. "This is ridiculous," Tom exclaimed, his voice dripping with disdain. "How can a waitress provide a stable home?" His family smirked, casting sidelong glances. Jessica's chest tightened, every word cut deeper. But then something shifted. In that moment, as the tension peaked and accusations flew, Jessica's body betrayed her. She felt herself sway, her vision blurring. Suddenly, she collapsed onto the courtroom floor. Everything went black. Gasps filled the room. A hush fell over the heated battlefield. The sharp contrast of her fall sliced through the heavy air, turning sharp anger into genuine concern. The judge, bewildered, called for silence. Chairs scraped back as people rushed to Jessica's side, the tension melting into empathy. When Jessica came to, warmth surrounded her. The faces peering down were concerned, not contemptuous. Tears glimmered in the eyes of a fellow single mom from the community, and Jessica felt a flicker of hope. The whispers about her life began to weave a narrative, exposing the truth of her struggles. A hard-working woman fighting tooth and nail to give her children a life filled with love. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With new acknowledgement glowing in the courtroom, Jessica could feel her strength surging back. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every parent who fought against the tide of privilege. As people rallied around her, their support echoed her dedication to family. But as the judge called for a break, the uncertainty loomed over Jessica. Would they see her heart? Would they recognize the love that defined her? As she steadied herself, surrounded by compassionate voices, one question lingered heavily in the air. What would it take for the world to truly see her? Jessica took a deep breath, steadying herself against the wooden railing of the courtroom. The warmth of the concerned faces around her had helped to clear some of the haze that clouded her mind. But as the judge's voice echoed through the room, calling for a short recess, she knew the battle was far from over. Tom still loomed on the other side of the room, his smirk replaced with a tight grimace. He was clearly rattled. Power could only shield him for so long in the face of genuine human emotion. Jessica felt a flicker of triumph. Maybe today would be different. Perhaps the tides were turning in her favor. As the courtroom emptied temporarily, she caught snippets of conversations among her supporters, words laced with solidarity. "I can't believe the lengths he's going to," said a woman standing near Jessica, a fellow mother, someone who knew the challenges of raising children alone. Jessica appreciated her presence, a reminder that she was not navigating this storm alone. When the recess finally concluded, the judge returned to the bench, his gavel echoing through the still room. Jessica straightened in her seat, her heart beating a little faster, as the judge invited Tom to present his case once more. Each word spoken by Tom, every fabricated lie, felt like a punch to Jessica's gut. It gnawed at her resolve, testing her stamina. "Your Honor," Tom began, his voice dripping with condescension, "I request a psychological evaluation of Jessica to ensure the welfare of our child. It's clear she is not fit to be a mother." Gasps punctured the air again, but Jessica felt her heart harden. How could he stoop so low? She forced herself to remain calm. It was a game to him, but it was her life. "Excuse me, Your Honor," she said firmly, rising to her feet. The courtroom felt charged with anticipation, eyes on her. "I'm not perfect, but I can provide a loving home for my children." Her voice didn't waver, it resonated with the clarity of truth. She could see doubt creeping into the eyes of some of Tom's family, and it filled her with a sense of purpose. Maybe, just maybe, they'd understand. As she continued, the judge nodded, recognizing the shift in energy. "Please continue, Mrs. Harris." Jessica felt her heartbeat level out as she shared snippets of her life. The night spent studying by candlelight while Jamie slept, her dreams of becoming more than just a waitress, the joy she found in her community when they gathered to support one another. Her vulnerability poured out, weaving an image of a mother who wanted to create a safe, loving environment for her children. By the time she finished speaking, the courtroom was silent. The only sound was the soft sniffle of the woman behind her, touched by Jessica's truth. "Your Honor," Tom interjected, his desperation evident, "this is emotional manipulation. If she could recall any of her life, she wouldn't even stand a chance to." But the judge raised a hand, silencing Tom. "I will not tolerate disparagement of character in this court, especially when the well-being of children is at stake." Jessica felt a rush of something. Was it hope? Finally, they were being heard without prejudice. The conversation turned as the judge began asking questions. Support began flowing in from unexpected places. Yet as the proceedings moved forward, Jessica noticed Tom's family shifting dramatically, whispering among themselves. Something dark flickered in Tom's eyes, something that told her he wasn't done fighting. The judge was about to call the next witness. Anxiety pressed into her chest like a heavy weight. What more could come next? What more could Tom throw at her? Just then, Jessica noticed movement at the back of the courtroom. A figure stepped into view, someone she never expected to see. Would this surprise change everything? Jessica's heart raced as the figure stepped into focus. It was her sister, Linda. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, time seemed to stand still. Linda was supposed to be at home in their small town, managing her own responsibilities, not here in this courtroom, about to bear witness to a battle Jessica hadn't anticipated. Linda! The name slipped from Jessica's lips, tinged with disbelief and a surge of hope. Linda took a step closer, the determination in her stride cutting through the room's tension. Tom's expression shifted. The shock in his eyes was palpable. He hadn't expected this. Jessica seized the opportunity. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, a mixture of fear and joy battling within her. "I couldn't stay away," Linda replied, her voice low but fierce. "I heard everything, Jess. You were amazing, Jess. I was there when you spoke." The judge, realizing the commotion, cleared his throat. "Order in the court." He looked at Linda with curiosity. "Are you here to testify?" "Your Honor, I am," Linda confirmed, her voice stronger now. Jessica felt an unexpected warmth spread through her at the idea that her sister was stepping up for her. The judge gestured for her to take the stand, and as she did, Jessica felt a rush of relief. It was as if the tides were beginning to turn further in her favor. Maybe Linda would provide the critical piece of evidence that would help dismantle Tom's claims. Once seated, Linda looked fiercely at her sister, giving her an encouraging nod. "I want to talk about the day Jessica took care of Jamie after his surgery," she started, her voice echoing in the quiet courtroom. "Jessica was there every moment. She sacrificed everything for him." Tom shifted in his seat, his frustration boiling over as he interrupted. "Her personal life is irrelevant. We're discussing her mental fitness here." "Actually," the judge interjected sharply, "the welfare of the child is indeed at the heart of this case." If Miss Carter can speak to the character of Mrs. Harris as a mother, it is quite relevant. Linda pressed on. Jess gets up every day to make sure he has what he needs: love, support, and care. She's not just a good mother, she's a remarkable one. Linda pressed on. Jess gets up every day to make sure he has what he needs: love, support, and care. She's not just a good mother, she's a remarkable one. But Tom doesn't care to see that. He wants to control. He wants to win. The raw honesty in Linda's words hung in the air like a lifeline. Jessica felt her heart swell, an emotional wave that threatened to break the dam of vulnerability she had built. Linda was speaking truths that had lived in her heart, but hearing them aloud made them feel more tangible. Yet a flicker of something dark lingered in Tom's eyes. He leaned forward, steepling his fingers, contemplating his next move. And what about the times Jessica hasn't been there? What can you say about the nights you've had to step in to care for those boys? The question hit Jessica like a slap. There were moments she wasn't proud of, days where the weight of her battles kept her from being the mother she desperately wanted to be. Would Linda reveal those truths too? Jessica has faced challenges, yes, but... Linda paused, narrowing her gaze. She's shown resilience like few others, and no one has fought harder to be there for those kids than she has. As Linda spoke, Jessica felt a wave of emotion crash over her. Each word was a reminder of why she had chosen to fight, of what was truly at stake. Her children deserved a mother who would go to the ends of the earth for them, and here was Linda doing just that for her. But then another voice cut through the tension, a voice Jessica rarely wanted to hear. "Your Honor," Tom sneered, "I move to dismiss this testimony as biased. It's not worth the paper it's written on." Jessica's breath caught in her throat. Doubts began to creep back in. Would the judge accept Linda's testimony? Would his mind be swayed by Tom's contempt? Or could he see the truth for what it was? In that moment, she realized this was not just a court battle. It was about the very fabric of her family and her identity as a mother. Would they withstand this storm together? And deep down, she sensed that perhaps Tom still had one last card to play, one that could change everything. What was it? The courtroom felt like a tightrope, the stakes climbing ever higher. Jessica held her breath, unsure of which way it would tip. Linda's voice filled the courtroom, steady and defiant. "Jessica has been the heart of our family, Your Honor, and the boys know that." Those words rang out, but the judge's sight was glued on Tom, the tension mounting like a tightening noose. And then, like an unexpected rumble of thunder, Tom rose from his seat again. "Your Honor, I would like to call a rebuttal witness." A ripple of surprise washed over the courtroom. Jessica felt her heart drop. The last thing she needed was for Tom to pull another surprise out of his sleeve. "Who?" she managed breathlessly. Tom's lips curled. "I called Claire Morgan." The bond between Jessica and Claire had always been shaky. They were acquaintances bonded by circumstance, but now it felt like a guillotine of fear had been dropped right in front of her. Claire was often the one who seemed to judge Jessica's parenting decisions harshly, the one who whispered gossip when she thought no one was listening. The doors creaked open, and Claire walked in, her heels clicking on the wooden floor. Dressed impeccably, she surveyed the courtroom like she owned the place. Jessica couldn't discern if she felt more anger or despair. How could Tom have possibly known this would be a blow? "Your Honor," Claire began, taking the stand with a confidence that sent chills down Jessica's spine. "I've known Jessica for years. While I don't deny her love for her children, I've seen her struggle with the pressures of motherhood." Jessica clenched her fists, the voicing of her weaknesses now echoing in the room. "She often misses the mark. There have been nights when she was too overwhelmed to really be present." Each word pierced her chest like a dagger. "Objection!" Jessica's voice shot out, raw and desperate, but it barely registered against the backdrop of Claire's continued testimony.
"The court must understand that," Claire continued, unwavering. "I care about her, I do, but I think it's essential to recognize that she has limitations." Jessica's mind whirled. How would she combat this? Linda's fiery defense was fading, and now here was Claire throwing salt onto an already open wound. She glanced at Linda, who was furrowing her brow, frustration and anger flaring in her eyes as she overheard Claire's accusations. Doubts surfaced like unwanted weeds. It was as if all the fears she'd ever had about her parenting were being laid bare before their eyes. "That's not who I am," she wanted to scream. "Your Honor," Tom interjected, leaping onto the opportunity, "this just goes to show that Jessica isn't fit to be a primary caregiver." She felt the walls closing in. Their judgment felt sharper now. Was that all this was? A smear campaign? The judge's face remained impassive. His eyes shifted between Tom, Claire, and Jessica. "Your Honor," Linda finally spoke up again, rising with the intensity of a distressed lioness, "can I cross-examine Claire?" The judge considered for a moment before nodding. Linda walked over with purpose. She needed to be sharp, articulate, to expose any weakness in Claire's statements. "Claire," she began, "you've made some very serious allegations, but how often did you offer
To help Jessica during her struggles?" Claire hesitated, clearly caught off guard. Well, I tried to reach out sometimes." "No, that's not the question," Linda pressed. "What actual support did you provide during her worst days?" A moment of silence. Claire's face twisted as she stammered for words. I thought." Linda seized it. "Anyone can critique from the sidelines. Jessica has been in the game every single day while you watched from a distance." Each exchange felt electrifying. Jessica's hope flickered back to life. Linda was taking control. The courtroom's dynamics shifted, unease palpable in the air. But in the corner of Jessica's mind, the seeds of fear still took root. Would it be enough? What else could Tom hidden that could turn the tide back in his favor? The tension was thick enough to slice as the judge leaned back in his chair, preparing to render his thoughts. Would they find a way to protect their family, or was the noose tightening around Jessica one last time? As the judge opened his mouth, Jessica didn't know if she was ready for whatever came next. "Your Honor, Just then, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, followed by frantic voices. What had just happened outside? Jessica's heart raced, wondering if this new interruption could change everything once again. Would this be the moment that revealed yet another layer of their struggle? The crash echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot, halting all conversations and snapping everyone's attention to the door. Jessica's heart pounded wildly in her chest. The tension in the room shifted again, a new fear threading through her mind. Was it the boys? Had something happened to them? Suddenly, the courtroom doors burst open and a woman stumbled in. It took a moment for Jessica to recognize her. It was Megan, a close friend who had always stood by Jessica, especially since the divorce proceedings had begun. But now, her pallor seemed unnaturally pale, and the panic in her eyes was palpable. "Megan!" Jessica exclaimed, a rush of maternal instinct overriding her confusion. "What's wrong?" Megan steadied herself against the doorframe, visibly shaken. "Sorry, I'm so sorry, but I just had to come. I couldn't." She gasped for air, then took a deep breath to steady her voice. "You need to know that something serious just happened. You wouldn't believe it if I told you." Everyone in the courtroom watched in rapt silence, the air thick with anticipation. Even Tom, who had been so smug moments ago, looked momentarily concerned. The judge leaned forward, intrigued. "Make it quick," he ordered, shifting in his seat, his previous sternness softened by curiosity. Jessica's eyes never left Megan. "What is it? What's going on?" "There was an emergency at the playground where the boys were," Megan began, her voice shaky but determined. "A woman collapsed, a pregnant woman." Jessica felt a shadow of anxiety deepen. "What? Is she okay?" Megan nodded, but there was a serious gravity in her expression. "Yes, she's stable now. But she was talking about the boys. She knew them.
She was looking for someone who might have known about a situation involving their mom. The room buzzed with murmurs. Jessica's stomach twisted. What situation? She reached out to your ex-husband, Tom. I didn't catch everything, but it had to do with something that happened at his house last week when the boys were visiting. She mentioned tears, accusations. Jess, she seemed to know so much more. I thought you should hear this. Every word felt like a candle igniting in the darkness. Jessica's mind raced as she processed the implications. Did Tom have something to do with this woman? Was there more to this story than she initially realized? Questions swirled in her head. Could this be a turn of fate that might work in her favor? Just then, Claire shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Though skeptical of Megan, unease etched her features. "This is irrelevant," she protested, but it felt flat against the energy building in the room. "No," Linda countered with fierce conviction, stepping in front of Jessica protectively. "This could be crucial. This could change everything. Jessica deserves to know the truth." The judge turned slightly in his chair, his interest piqued. "Let's gather some information first. Ms. Morgan, I suggest you step down. I need clarity on this situation." Tom's face darkened. "This isn't a sideshow. It has nothing to do with the case at hand," he shot back, but the undercurrent of worry in his voice did not go unnoticed. As the judge signaled for a court officer to step forward and bring Megan closer, Jessica felt a swell of hope mixed with trepidation. What if this revelation peeled away the layers of deceit Tom had woven around their family? Megan stepped forward, ready to share what she had inadvertently stumbled upon. Jessica's pulse raced as the potential of a hidden truth hung in the air. Could this unexpected twist finally give her the leverage she needed? As Megan opened her mouth to speak, the courtroom sat in breathless anticipation. Would this revelation be the lifeline Jessica had desperately sought? And then, just as Megan began to describe her version of events, the phone in Jessica's bag buzzed ominously. She reached for it, almost hesitantly, her gut churning. What if it was more news, something she wasn't prepared to hear? The buzz persisted, and Jessica's heart quickened. What awaited her on the other side of that screen? Just then, the judge's gavel fell sharply, and silence enveloped the room once again. Would the truth emerging from this moment be Jessica's salvation or her undoing? Megan's voice broke through the tension as she began to explain. "I was just at the playground when it happened. The woman collapsed, and I rushed to help. She said she had seen your boys earlier that day. They were playing with some kids, but she noticed something strange." Jessica leaned in, heart racing. The buzz of her phone faded into the background. She felt like everything hinged on these words. She said they were upset. Something happened with their father. She overheard them talking about feeling scared and alone, like they couldn't go home anymore. A lump formed in Jessica's throat. Fear and anger mixed in her chest. How could Tom do this? How could he make their children feel like that? Tom interrupted, raising his voice defensively. "That's ridiculous. They're just kids. They get upset over anything." But Jessica wasn't about to let him dismiss this. "What did she mean? What did they say?" she demanded, her voice steady even as her heart thudded violently. For a moment, Megan hesitated, searching for the right words. "Jess, she mentioned a party. Something happened there that made your boys—" Suddenly, the courtroom doors flew open once again. A man in a wrinkled suit rushed in, looking frazzled but determined. Jessica's heart sank. It was her divorce attorney, Sam, with desperation etched across his features. "Jessica," he called out, breathless. "I just got a call. We need to talk about—" The room erupted in chaos as everyone turned. The judge slammed his gavel, demanding order and silence, but the tension was palpable. Jessica's breath hitched. What now? "Sam, what is it?" she asked, urgency rising in her voice. He took a moment to catch his breath, then spoke quickly. "The woman who collapsed, she's connected to your ex. You need to know. There's more to her story than just what happened at the playground. She knows things about Tom that have serious implications." Jessica's mind raced, emotions crashing over her like a tidal wave. Her eyes darted between Sam and Megan, a whirlwind of what-ifs spinning in her head. How deep did this go? What other secrets was Tom hiding? Your ex-husband has never been the person he claimed to be, Sam continued. And if this woman is involved, we may have a stronger case than we thought, but we need her testimony. Megan nodded, fear and resolve in her eyes. We can do that, right? We can get her to share what she knows? Absolutely, Sam replied, but we need to act fast. A white-hot anger bubbled within Jessica. Tom has manipulated everything. He's put our boys through hell, and I need to protect them. Tom's expression darkened. You're making a mistake. You don't know what you're getting into, he warned, but the crack in his bravado showed through. The air felt electric, alive with possibility. This was more than just a courtroom. It was a battleground of truth and power. Jessica felt hope flicker inside her. Maybe, just maybe, the tides were shifting in her favor. Judge, Jessica called, her voice ringing clear. I need to bring this woman in. She's crucial to this case. The judge nodded, but remained cautious. All right, but we'll need to verify her information before we proceed. This court won't accept hearsay.
Thrummed like a live wire as Megan moved back to Jessica's side, their eyes locking in silent solidarity. But then, a thought pierced through the whirlwind. What if this new revelation was just the beginning? What if there were even darker truths lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unearthed? As Megan prepared to share more about the woman and her connection to Tom, Jessica clutched her phone tightly, her heart pounding. Who was calling now? What new truths awaited her when she finally dared to look? The courtroom buzzed around her as she made her decision. Whatever it was, she had to know. As Jessica hit accept, she braced herself for the unexpected. Would this call confirm her worst fears or send her toward new paths of hope? The call connected, and Jessica's heart pounded, not just from fear, but a surge of hope. She steadied her breath, trying to focus on the voice on the other end. Hello? Jessica? It was Leah, a close friend from her college days. Leah's voice was familiar and comforting. I was just thinking about you. How are you holding up? Leah, it's not great. I'm in court. There's something going on with Tom and the kids. I need some advice, and I don't know who else to turn to right now, Jessica admitted, each word heavy with the weight of her emotions. This time, Leah's tone shifted to concern. What happened? Talk to me. I'm here for you. Jessica glanced at Megan, who was listening intently, then back at Tom, who was staring at her with a mix of annoyance and uncertainty. There's a woman connected to Tom. She saw the boys during the day, and something happened with them at a party. I don't know how deep this goes. I just feel like I need to protect them, but I'm scared I'm missing something. Megan mentioned the woman about the playground, right? Jessica, sometimes it's the smallest details that reveal the biggest truths. You have to find out everything you can about this woman. She could hold the key to your boy's safety, Leah encouraged. Exactly, but how do I even find her? I can't waste any time. Let me do some digging. I have connections with a few reporters. Maybe they can help track her down. If she knows something, we need to get her on your side, Leah said, her voice resolute. Jessica felt a flicker of gratitude. Having a friend offer to fight alongside her was a breath of fresh air. Thank you, Leah. I knew I could count on you. Just keep your cool in there. Focus on your boys. You're doing great, Leah reassured her. And about Tom, just stay strong. Don't let him intimidate you. As they hung up, Jessica was fired up with a sense of purpose. She turned to Sam, who was observing. We need to track that woman down. Leah is going to help. I have to know what she can
share. Good, but we need to make sure we go about it the right way, Sam replied firmly. If Tom catches wind of this, he might try to shut it down. We have to be strategic. Jessica nodded, her determination hardening. I won't let him hurt our kids anymore. They deserve to feel safe. The judge's gavel echoed through the courtroom again, snapping everyone back to focus. We will take a short recess, the judge announced. When we come back, I expect to hear about this witness you speak of. As the courtroom began to empty, Jessica felt a mixture of anxiety and empowerment. This was a fight she needed to win, not just for herself, but for her boys. Her heart raced not only with the fear of what lay ahead, but with anticipation of what might come to light. Megan leaned closer, her eyes wide with determination. "Do you really think we can find her? If she says what she knows." "We will find her," Jessica replied firmly. "I need you to stay by my side. We can't back down." Suddenly, Jessica's phone vibrated again. It was a text from Leah. "Found a lead. The woman's name is Clara. I'll keep you posted." Hope shot through Jessica. The walls of the courtroom suddenly felt less confining. Beneath the weight of the struggle, she sensed a crack opening, a chance for a breakthrough. But then a shadow passed over her, and she turned to see Tom striding toward her, cowed yet defiant. "You should leave this alone, Jess. You won't like what you uncover." The room seemed to narrow around her, but instead of cowering, her resolve solidified. "Maybe it's time I find out the truth." Tom's eyes flared with anger. "You think you're strong enough for this? You don't know what you're up against." Jessica felt the energy shift, tension thickening. She was skirting the edge of a cliff, and the winds were howling, and she knew the next step could either plunge her deeper into darkness or lift her into the light. As she faced Tom, a deep breath lodged in her throat. Did she have the strength to confront whatever lay ahead? And what would the truths reveal about Tom, the boys, and even herself? The air felt electric as Jessica held Tom's gaze, determined and unyielding. She could sense that he intended to intimidate her, but there was something more in his eyes, a flicker of fear that betrayed his bravado. Just for a moment, doubt crept into her mind, but she quickly brushed it aside. The truth had to come out, no matter the cost. "Let me tell you something, Tom," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I won't be scared of you anymore. Enough is enough. You can't keep hiding behind your lies." He stepped back, momentarily taken aback. Anger twisted his features, but Jessica saw it slip, giving way to a cold, calculated disdain. "You have no idea what you're walking into," he warned, his voice low and menacing. "This goes beyond us. You're playing a dangerous game." Before she could respond, the courtroom was bustling again, bringing a wave of noise that swallowed up their conversation. The judge was taking her seat, and the 12 jurors found their places, separating Jessica from Tom with a thickening sense of urgency. Her heart raced as she realized this was it. She had to play her hand carefully now. Megan slid into the seat next to her, chewing on her lip in anxious anticipation. "What did he say?" she breathed, eyes darting between Tom and the judge. "Nothing I can't handle," Jessica replied, more to convince herself than Megan. "We're going to get to the bottom of this." The judge's gavel struck again, and silence fell over the court. "We will resume," the judge announced, glancing down at her notes. "I trust you have plans to present evidence regarding this witness." Jessica felt her stomach knot. She had to stand firm against the storm storming inside her. "Yes, Your Honor. We believe this woman, Clara, possesses critical information about the events involving the children." The judge nodded. "Very well. I suggest you locate her quickly. Time is of the essence. Any delays will not be tolerated." As the words hung in the air, something shifted in Jessica. It was a mixture of fear and unyielding determination pushing her forward. She was now on a quest, not just for the truth, but for her boys' safety and her own release from the shadows Tom had cast over their lives. Somehow, the courtroom felt charged with anticipation as the recess ended. She had to find Clara, but how? Just as doubt started its whispering, her phone buzzed again, pulling her from her thoughts. "Leah, I've reached out to a few people. Clara has a store where she works part-time, and she might be there now. I'll text you the address." Jessica's heart surged. "Thank you, Leah. This means everything." There was no time to waste. Gathering her things, she turned to Megan. "I have a lead. We're going to find Clara." "Are you ready for this?"
Megan's voice quavered slightly. What if Tom finds out? He won't. Not if we're careful. I'll handle him. Jessica squared her shoulders, taking a deep breath. We have to do this together. As they stood to leave, Tom's voice boomed through the chatter, slicing through the noise and freezing Jessica in her tracks. You think running away will save you? You have no idea of the depths I can sink to keep this quiet. Jessica turned back, heart pounding but chin up. You're wrong, Tom. It's too late. I'm done being afraid of you. She shot a look to the door. And I'm not alone anymore. The doors swung open, and as she stepped out into the bright hallway, a strange calm washed over her. Hope flickered bright in her chest. She wouldn't turn back. Whatever awaited her, she would face it
head on. But just as they reached the exit, she heard a name that made her blood run cold. Clara. Jessica turned sharply. A woman stood at the end of the hall, glancing in her direction, worry plastered across her face. Did she know something? Megan, wait, that's her! With every step, more questions surged in Jessica's mind. What would Clara say? Would she be the ally they so desperately needed? The tension coiled tighter as she approached. With every inch, the weight of the past pressed heavy, and just as she was about to call out, Clara turned and began to walk away. Jessica felt her heart lurch. Would this slip away like so many other chances? Wait, Jessica shouted, reaching for her. We need to talk. And as Clara looked back, a flicker of recognition sparked between them. But what other secrets loomed in the air? Jessica's voice echoed in the hallway as she rushed toward Clara, a strange blend of hope and anxiety coursing through her. The brief moment between them, that flicker of recognition, hung in the air, almost tangible. She could see Clara's expression shift from surprise to hesitation. Was she about to walk away? For good? Please, Jessica urged, pushing past the crowd of voices. We really need your help. Clara paused, her eyes darting to the side and then back to Jessica, uncertainty etched across her features. The moment felt stretched, like the world around them had slowed down. Jessica's heart hammered in her chest. She had no idea what thoughts raced through Clara's mind, but she could feel the weight of the moment, the importance of this encounter. At last, Clara stepped back, her defenses softening just a little. Fine, what do you want? She asked, her tone sharp but lacking the bitterness it had held moments before. We're trying to expose the truth about the case, what really happened with the kids. I believe you witnessed something crucial. Jessica spoke earnestly, her voice full of urgency. You can help us bring it to light. Clara glanced over her shoulder, visibly torn. You don't know what you're asking. Tom is dangerous. He won't let this go easily. The fear in her eyes made Jessica's heart sink. She'd seen that fear before, felt it creeping into her own being. But this was about more than fear now. This was about delivering justice. We're already in this mess, Jessica insisted, determination rising in her voice. If we don't stand together, nothing is going to change. The truth will stay buried, and that's just not right. We can't let him control us. For a split second, Jessica saw something shift in Clara. A glimmer of hope, maybe. Clara glanced back one more time, her brows furrowing, contemplating the weight of the decision ahead of her. Okay, Clara finally said, her voice quavering slightly. I'll talk, but we need to find a safer place. With fresh urgency, they hurried down the hall, edging away from any prying eyes. Megan followed close. Behind, her expression a mix of hope and concern. As they turned a corner, Clara led them into an empty conference room, the heavy door muffling the noise outside. Clara took a deep breath, fidgeting with the strands of her hair. You have to understand, I didn't want to get involved, but if what you're saying is true, I can't just stand by. Jessica nodded, feeling a rush of gratitude for Clara's bravery. Thank you. Just tell us what you know. What did you see? The room felt tense, like all the air had been sucked away. But Clara looked Jessica in the eye, her resolve slowly building. I was nearby the day it happened. I saw things.
I can't explain it all right now, but Tom was there. He was holding a meeting with some shady figures, people I've seen around town who don't have good intentions. Jessica's breath hitched. This was just what they needed, concrete evidence to build their case against Tom. What else? Was there anything specific? Any conversations? Clara hesitated, her face clouding with past memories. I overheard them talking about the kids. Something went wrong. They said they couldn't afford to get any more attention, to keep it quiet. Hope and dread battled within Jessica. What did this mean for her boys? Clara, this could change everything. We need to take this to court. But Clara shook her head, panic moving into her eyes. No, that's too risky. If Tom finds out I spoke, he will come for me. He has connections. Jessica stepped closer. You're stronger than you think. We just have to protect each other. If we speak out together, we can end this for good. The silence stretched as Clara weighed her options. Just then, the sound of heels clicking against the floor approached. That familiar voice rang through the hallway. Tom's. Jessica felt her stomach drop. Clara, we need to go now, she urged, grabbing her hand. But before they could escape, the door swung open, revealing Tom standing there, a sinister smile on his face, like a predator cornering its prey. Looks like we have a little meeting going on, he said, his tone dripping with condescension. And how interesting that I wasn't invited. Jessica's stomach twisted as dread surged through her veins. She shot a worried glance at Clara, whose eyes were wide with fear. This was turning dangerously, and now they were trapped. Tom stepped forward, the confidence radiating from him, making it clear he had the upper hand. I won't allow this to get out of control. Not now, not ever. And with that ominous declaration, Jessica realized that this fight was far from over. Would they be able to outsmart Tom, or would he silence them before they could reveal the truth? As the door lurched closed behind them, the walls felt like they were closing in, leaving them no room to maneuver. Jessica took a deep breath, knowing they would have to fight for their lives and the lives
Of those vulnerable children. What was she willing to risk in the face of such overwhelming threat? Would she stand and fight or back down like so many others had done? Only time would tell as uncertainty loomed large in that charged moment. The tension in the conference room thickened, and Jessica felt a wave of desperation crash over her. Tom's smile twisted her stomach into knots. It was the kind of smile that meant he knew something she didn't. She stepped in front of Clara instinctively, ready to protect her newfound ally at any cost. "What do you want, Tom?" she snapped, feeling the fire in her throat. Tom regarded her coolly. "I think you know what I want, Jess. The same thing I've always wanted. To keep things under control." His eyes flicked to Clara, and Jessica felt the weight of unspoken threats hanging in the air. "And I'll do whatever it takes to ensure that nobody disrupts what I've built." Jessica could see Clara's uncertainty flickering, fear creeping into her features. Jessica squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Stay strong," she whispered. But as Tom stepped closer, she knew they needed an escape plan. They couldn't be cornered here. "Let's not pretend this is a conversation anymore," Tom continued, arrogance lacing his words. "You think you're in some kind of movie, fighting for truth and justice. But in the end, all that will get you is more pain. You think anyone cares about your struggles? You're just a waitress, and that stays your reality." "Clara," he turned, fixing a taunting gaze on her, "are you really willing to throw your life away for someone like her?" Clara's expression darkened, the fear from moments before igniting into a spark of defiance. "I'm not scared of you, Tom. What you've done is wrong, and I'm done living in fear." She stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Jessica. A pulse of courage surged through Jessica's chest at Clara's stance. It felt like a small but vital shift. Tom's face twisted in disbelief. "You think this changes anything? You're both dead in the water." He glanced at the door as if assessing their chances. It was now or never.
"Let me remind both of you of a little secret," he snapped, and Jessica felt a chill in her bones. "You won't win. My connections run deep. All you'll do is bring more trouble to yourselves." Clara squared her shoulders. "Maybe, but trouble is better than living a lie." She turned to Jessica, determination burning in her eyes. "We can't let him control us any longer." "You don't know what you're facing," Tom shot back, but something shifted in his demeanor. Beneath the confident sneer was a palpable tension. Jessica caught a flicker of doubt. "Enough," Jessica said, her voice firm despite the tremor of fear coursing through her. "We have a chance to expose the truth. If we stand together and tell the world what really happened, we can save our kids." Tom rolled his eyes
Dismissively, but Jessica took a step forward, towing the line between defiance and desperation. "Your money can't buy the truth, Tom, and it can't shield you from this." In that moment, the energy in the air felt electric, charged, like a storm was brewing. Tom's bravado cracked a little, exposing the darkness underneath. He glanced toward the door they had come through, then back to them. "You'll regret this, all of you," he hissed, but Jessica could sense his uncertainty mounting. He was worried, and that made her stronger. "You still think you're clever, but you're treading on thin ice. I'll make sure you both pay dearly for this." "Let me make something clear," Jessica replied, heart racing. "While you're busy threatening us, we're already gathering the truth. And you can't silence us for long. This is just the beginning." Tom scoffed, but she saw the flicker of tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched. Victory felt possible, even if it was just a faint glimmer on the horizon. With newfound bravery, she turned to Clara, her voice ringing clearer. "Let's take this outside. We need to talk before he figures out what we're up to." Clara nodded, bolstered by Jessica's strength. Together, they steered toward the exit, leaving Tom standing there, a silhouette of power and intimidation, but not invincible. As they pushed through the door, a sense of urgency propelled them into the hallway. Outside, they were greeted by the bustling sounds of the courthouse. Jessica pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, heart pounding as she sent a quick text to Leah. "We found Clara. We need to regroup." "What do we do next?" Clara asked, anxiety still lingering in her eyes. "We gather evidence," Jessica declared, her voice steady. "I'll call Sam, and we'll determine our next steps. One thing's for sure, we're not going to be silenced." A sudden rush of camaraderie filled the space between them, and Jessica felt a connection growing, an alliance built not just on necessity, but on shared strength, resilience, and a fierce desire for justice. In that moment, she realized they were not just fighting for custody or safety, they were battling darkness and lies. They were the voices of so many others who felt powerless against the tides of influence and intimidation. Together, they could emerge from this storm, fierce mothers looking to reclaim their rights and their power. But as they stepped into their fight, Jessica couldn't shake the anticipation that lurked just under the surface. Tom wouldn't go down without a fight, and his threats loomed heavy in her mind. Would uncovering the truth be the key to everything, or would it unravel even more? Whatever awaited her, she felt an unwavering resolve settle within. Her voice would rise louder than the shadows he cast, and they would fight until the truth stood free in the light. Not just for custody, but for hope, truth, and a future filled with love for their children.
You felt inspired by Jessica's fight for justice and the courage shown in her journey? Take action now. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories, full of heart and determination. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Let's connect. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support the channel. It's our time to rise together. Don't hesitate. Your voice makes a difference.